this first frame, you're going to have to find yourself some beautiful pieces of wood. I was lucky enough that a birch tree on the verge of our property was cut down by our local council, and I just had to have these lovely pieces. They were way too long, so I also had to get Mike, the publisher of Floral Design magazine, to chop them up for me into lengths. They were huge, so out came the great big skill saw. Mike cut each piece into a 99 centimetre length. I picked out all the pieces I wanted, the nice big knots and bits like that, and he tried to do it so that the bottom and the top of the piece, when it was done, was going to be square. The reason it's going to have to be square is going to be apparent in a moment. Never to miss an opportunity, I also asked him to cut up these planks of wood that I had found in a builder's yard. They were scraps, really. It was one big plank and it was a scrap. And I asked him also to cut these so they were 99 centimetres one way and 51 centimetres the other way. I then had the components I needed. I had the birch cut to 99 centimetres, I had the pre-painted wood cut to 99 centimetres and 51. Mike then nailed the frame together for me. He put 2 nails in the tops, 2 nails in the bottom to make a very simple frame. It didn't need to be reinforced in the corners because the birch would actually do that itself when we had it fully assembled. With the frame completed, now it's the exciting part of adding those birch branches. To put them in, you're going to have to wedge them in a way that's going to work. The bottom has been cut as close as we could get to square, and then you bend this over and push this part in. Now I want this part out, so when I've got it to that point there, and I love that craggy look, a nail up the top here, a hammer, and we bang it in. I'm not going to do it on my good table here. I'm going to take it back out to the garage, but that's just to show you. Up there, when that one's in, we're also going to do the same thing at the bottom. So that is now really, really solid. The other thing it's done is made the frame solid. It's acting as a brace for the frame. That's why you don't have to worry about bracing when you've just got the 4 sides. I have these other wonderful pieces of birch as well that I can now start integrating into it to where I want those also to be nailed. This one here is a wee bit short at the top, but you can always add another tiny piece of wood up there to get it the right size. So at this point, with your bits of birch, have a wee play. Every time you decide you like where it is, a nail at the top, a nail at the bottom, and then add the next one. The key is to get depth, and you don't need to have it all inside the frame. You can have it on the outside because it looks really, really cool. There's an example there. Having it on the outside like that looks really, really neat. So now you're just going to make this composition with your birch that is going to be nailed top and bottom. All done, composition made. I'm just going to tip it over so you can see the nails. It's very, very solid at this stage. So they're flat-headed nails. That sounds like I know a lot about nails. I don't. And up here, a tiny little panel pin, I've been told it's called, just to secure that one up the top. It's solid and it's heavy and it can be made in any size whatsoever. This could actually be a permanent screen, a piece of architecture art in a very, very modern building. If it was under shelter, that wood is going to last for years and years and years. And I just love the way the wood has been distressed so it really blends in beautifully with the colour of that gorgeous birch. It is a design for all seasons. If it was spring right now, I would have bulbs, flowering bulbs, hyacinths, daffodils, and I would have them all coming out from the bottom with moss at the base. A vegetative design, as if you were sitting in a birch forest and all the daffodils were coming out around the base. But it's autumn right now, so I'm going to transform this into an autumnal arrangement. But remember, don't put too much on it or this beautiful structure, the beautiful textures of this bark will be lost. So I've picked some glorious colours straight from our weeping willow, and these won't last long, but I just think those colours are amazing. I'm going to put it this way at the back so you are looking through the bark to this lovely, lovely base. And a tiny wee tack here, and that will hold it at the back. Start it off. So it goes right through. And that's so it's how I want it to be. And a little tack. It's all you need, and it's done. Work from the back on this yourself so that that beautiful bark is always at the front. And this time I want the leaves to be seen through that hole there. So we put them this way. And it's hanging. This adds wonderful depth, and if you're using it as a screen, of course, it's also adding that lovely privacy that you require. That was the hole, so I'm pushing it through the hole, measuring where I want it, cutting it off. So it's quite 3D. An autumn wedding, an autumn event. Fabulous idea. And there you have it. That is my autumnal version. If it was summer, what would I do? In summer, of course, you've got all the roses. I would buy long stemmed roses, the great big ones that came up to here. And I would have little test tubes at the bottom so they came right up. So there was roses, red of course, always got to be red, right the way through here. White for a wedding. Wonderful. Now there are other things you can do with a frame like this. A wooden frame is just the most incredibly versatile thing. You saw it didn't take much to make. You can either square off the edges or you can miter them. Here's one that I did that had mitered edges for this DVD, and it'll show you how to do it all if you go here. Alrighty, on to the next one. A wooden frame doesn't have to be self-made. A really quick way of finding a frame is to go to a second-hand shop and get a picture frame. This one I found in a local second-hand shop, and it suits the character of our house. It had a print inside it which I just disposed of, and I immediately had a frame that was in proportion to the size of the room. To make this one, it is made of wood. It's just been sprayed gold. And it is 3 years old. This is the back, obviously. It has raffia that I have glued all to the back in the rhythm, and then used a sellotape to sellotape it down, and then stapled over the top this lovely florist's wrap. That was how I prepared it. This actually came with the frame. This was a teaching exercise on Fibonacci's numbers. So it has all dried material, the pasta flax, aspidistra, dried leek seeds, woven flax flowers, wrapped vine, and a little bit of bling to go in with the stick. So another way of doing it as a screen, if you want to put this on legs, or for this, but for me this is a piece of wall art in a frame. Lots of possibilities with wood and frames. Polystyrene is probably the most versatile thing you can have for a frame or a screen. Where do you find it? If you want to recycle, repurpose it, go to an electrical shop that sells fridges, stoves, cookers, those sort of things, and you could use the casings. This is from a company in New Zealand that makes flooring. Polystyrene is used a lot in New Zealand for insulation. So you can actually go to this factory and get an enormous sheet and they will cut it for you. Now the circle has been cut out with a jigsaw. I simply put a pencil here and a piece of string and went and then it was cut out with a jigsaw. It's possibly 2.5 centimeters, 1 inch thick, and you can see it's enormous. Polystyrene works on any scale and it is fantastic for a wall or the floor. Have a look at this one. I used exactly the same methods for this one, which was for an Indian celebration and it was on the floor. But you can also stand it up. Now how's this standing up? It's standing up because of that little spike. So if you want to have yours standing up and being a screen to separate a part of a room, all you need to do is push the spike through there and it'll stand it up for you. The spike will have to be smaller or the polystyrene will have to be thicker because that obviously isn't going to work. Okay, so but you can also lean it against here and then use tape, pins to just hold it up against there if the back of it's not going to be seen. So that's polystyrene for a frame and screen. Now what can you do with it? Have a look at this one. Isn't this amazing? It was done by a florist called Anna Robson and is in the foyer actually of our studio, and it is done with polystyrene, and if you look carefully you'll see she has used a heat gun to make those beautiful textures and then spray painted it all black. Added all the bits and pieces to it as a two pieces and it's just gorgeous. So you can do that. You can bubble it with a heat gun. You can spray paint it. Test a wee bit first in case it bubbles and you don't want it to. For this one we're going to use layering. Layering and polystyrene just love each other because you can pin leaves into polystyrene very, very quickly and it works beautifully. But I'm just going to show you a little bit of a different technique, and this one is using glue. It is called multi-purpose adhesive, ADOS, and it's a very strong glue that sets in 30 seconds. Once again, test it on a bit of the polystyrene to check that it's not going to melt it, but it's very, very fast. The other thing I'm going to use is my Equisetum. This lovely reed. If you don't have access to this, any reed will do. Have a look at this one. This design has been done with reeds much finer. It would have taken forever, but isn't it beautiful? When you're making a decision about how you're going to put this, I'm going to think of this as a screen that you're going to see through. You could either radiate it out from the imaginary middle, layering it all this way around, or you could have it straight all the way across, or you could have it straight that way and long that way. There's all sorts of interesting things you can do with it. The circle in the middle is either going to be so you can see through it, or it's going to stop people seeing too much. If you wanted to stop people seeing too much, you put little bars and things through it. A sense of mystery. Have you been into one of those restaurants where they've got a grill or a screen between you and the next diner? You can hear them, you can almost see them, but not very well. That's what you can do with a centerpiece. So I'm obviously not going to work with it up this way. I'm going to work with it flat. The first thing I'm going to do is cover the whiteness of that polystyrene with some black paper. You can paint it. This is just a lot quicker. And the paper is florist wrap, normally seen wrapping up flowers. So I'm going to simply, with the gun staple it on. If you don't do this and your plant material shrinks, you're going to see all these unsightly white bits. That's all this is for. I've done front and back just to keep it tidy on the back. And now we do the circle. So cut to the edge of the circle. Probably 8s, 45 degrees. Cutting through both layers, the top and bottom layer. And now bend it over so that your hole is revealed. The more cuts you make, the more perfect your circle is going to be. Staple it down. Get quite close to that edge. Okay, so that's done as 1/16, and half and a quarter and a quarter again, so it gets a really nice edge there. And carry on stapling and do this all the way around. So there it is on the one side where you can see where I cut it all, and this is the other side. Believe it or not, I'm going to have this side as the back because I want to have it as dark as possible, so where all of these pieces came over, it's made it much darker. So there's no problem whatsoever about being able to see any white bits. The next part has to be done outside because it's the glue, and believe it or not, that glue is, whoa, so strong. I don't want to end up brain dead. Relocated the ventilated area. Test it first to see that the glue's not going to dissolve anything, and then spray it. I'm going to work from the corner and so that they all come into the middle about so they meet. So this is the end of the equisetum, so that's my first piece is going to sit there. Now if you can't find glue to do this, use pins. It works just as easily, and make patterns with your pins. My next piece will be beside it, and you don't have to have them all coming there, because this one here can be down here. See what I mean about needing that black paper? And onto the next one. And just do little patches at a time. This is much quicker than pinning, but you do have to be a little bit patient. So this is probably going to take me an hour to do this right all around. I don't want to bore you, so I'll come back when I get to the cutting part. I've let the glue set for several hours, and now I can start cutting the stems back to the edge of the frame. And by doing it this way, all of the ends of the equisetum are all pointing towards the corner. It makes it look really cool. And when I've trimmed all these off, I can add the second texture. For this type of polystyrene screen, texture is everything. So I'm going to use New Zealand flax. It's a particularly wide one, but you can do this with quite a few different types of leaf. Split it down the middle. This is a giant one, this one. When you can split it no more because it doesn't want to, there, cut it off. I actually saved these bits. These bits are really cool for other arrangements. On the pasta machine you use the third slot and you just feed it through from the top end. You'll have seen me do this in the DVD All Flax and also the DVD Easy Floral Gifts. when you pull it apart, of course, this beautiful skeletonized river of foliage emerges. So I'm going to do that with all these pieces, and then we'll get started back on the main frame. I now have a whole pile of these pasta flaxes. Now with each piece of this flax, they're all going to be slightly different. Just gently pull them out so you get that maximum divine width. As these dry, they will dry into quite a golden colour, as will the equisetum, and that will mean that you can use them again and again. You just would change where you put them, or you might add fresh flowers to them. I'm going to use these pins. They don't go right through the polystyrene, and they have got just small little heads on them so they can hardly be seen. I got them from a bargain shop. Pull out the beautiful thing and pin it into one of the bits that is still flax. Obviously it's not going to work if you put it into the part where there is a gap. Stretch it out as wide as you can. You might need to use 2 or 3 pins here. And I'm sloping it into the pins into the polystyrene because they do hold better. And one in the middle. And now we're going to swirl the flax. Give it the most beautiful rolling rhythms. And every time you lay it down, pull it out and add 3 pins across it. And continue swirling them over into these glorious waves, stretching them out as you go. The more you stretch them, the less they're going to shrink back into that narrow original shape. Now this is going to take me 20 or 30 minutes to do, and it's quite free form. There's no pattern, you're just going where you think the flax wants to sit. This one here, see how it just wants to sit like that, so I will just pin it there, and that can go right to the edge. So that's my job for the next little while. So I'm halfway, and each section is taking 2 pieces of the split flax, the pasta flax, so it's not going to take a lot of flax, and it really is a case of just going with the flow of where the swirl wants to be. The more pins you put on it, the more open it's going to be as it dries, because as of now it's starting to dry, so that if it's held open by the pins, it's not going to lose any of its form. It's certainly a spectacular way to put a screen in, isn't it? And it's not taking too long, it's just pin, roll, pin, roll. So there it is, all its beautiful textures and greenery and swirls. If this was a screen, you would do both sides, and so that you got this lovely effect from people sitting in either side of it if you're going to have it for a big event. But something through there so they can see each other or what's happening. Other than that, have it against a wall, or put it out a metre from, put it out 30 centimetres from the wall and light it from behind so it catches all this beautiful light. If you wanted to add flowers to it, I suggest very bold flowers like Phalaenopsis, big bold flowers to place in the loops and around it. That's it, and I hope it's given you some lovely ideas for your own screens. Been doing flower arranging for 30 years, maybe a wee bit longer, you'll recognise this stand. It is a metal stand that was just so popular right through the 80s and 90s. It is made easily, and if you want to know how, it's in this DVD, How to Build Your Own Steel Constructions and Stands, with Gary Smith, who is our local college engineering teacher. And I help him a little bit. So it is square tube, hollow. It has an extension at the top of it that comes up and down, and it has legs. It's very simple to make if you don't have one around, but do find out if you've got a floral art club if they have anybody in there has it that doesn't use them anymore. What they used to do in the 80s was put a piece of floral foam here and a piece of floral foam here, and they'd do a design coming down here and then a design coming along here and frame it. I'm going to modernise it a bit for you today, because it is really, really something that we can still use, but let's make it more contemporary. So this is the metal frame. You can have it made in any size. You can have 4, 5, 6 of them made to create that wonderful avenue to screen things off. What you're going to need for this design is some flat cane, extremely fashionable at the moment, and even better, it always comes in a round circle. If you wanted to change its shape, you would add water to it and soak it, but we want it in that round circle. You also need something to attach the cane to the frame, either raffia, because it is exactly the same colour, or paper covered wire. You're also going to need some flower tubes. If you don't have glass ones, you can disguise plastic ones with a piece of neutral coloured wallpaper and a cable tie to cable tie it together, or corrugated cardboard, and these cheap little plastic flower files, and wrap it around them and tie it on with a piece of raffia. Once again, so that it's all in those neutral tones, because we want the star to be the circle. So let's get started. So take the whole coil, however you've bought it, and just temporarily hang it. To the top of the frame. That just means you can manipulate it where you want it, because this design is actually all going to be about circles. Here's the end. Have all the ends nice and square there. Alright, and I'm going to tie all of those around the base of the frame. I'm working from the back, so I'm tying it once, twice, 3 times, and I am not cutting it off short, because I may want to put a flower tube there. Halve the paper covered wire, put a loop and bring it back round the frame. Now if you wanted to, you could have painted this frame the same colour. It didn't actually worry me. So there it is, all looped where it's touching, and I'm going with the natural curl of where this cane wants to go, because that's going to keep it absolutely there. And now I'm just going to take bunches of it and do some tatami wiring. So one on this side, one on this side, tie it in place. 1, 2, 3. And we'll take a few more. One, 2, 3. Take a few more. If you want your swirls to be less defined than this, take smaller bunches. And the last bunch there. 1, 2, 3. And once again, I'm not cutting it off, because I might decide to put a test tube there later. So we're already starting to get this lovely, lovely swirl. Now we're going to take it to the top and do the same thing. Another piece of the paper covered wire or raffia or even textured yarn. And do the same thing at the top. Put it in half. Make a loop. Put the two through the loop. Now, this is another decision you're going to make. Do you want it asymmetrical, which means the swirl is on this side, or do you want it dead centre? If you want it dead centre, it's going to give you a far more formal design. If you're going to have it asymmetrical, it's going to have more rhythm and movement, as it already has got heaps of it. For me, I like it as it falls. And when I pull this up to here, with these swirls here, it's coming to about there. So that's where it's going to go. I've always found if you go where the plant material, in this case the cane, wants to go, it really does work with you and nothing's difficult. Right, push it right up to there. And on the back now I'm doing exactly the same thing as I did on the side. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm grabbing another bundle and doing the same thing. 1, 2, 3. Turn it around so you can see the back. And you can see how there's that wiring holding groups them into place at the back. Now when I turn it around so you've got the front again, I can now cut off the original piece here that was holding the whole bundle together, and also I can cut off this top piece that I did just to secure it. So we now have a natural roll coming through it. And at this point, you can start to manipulate your cane to how you want it to fall. I'll show you what's happened at the back again. So you can see that it's well secured. So now it's a case of taming this great tangle at the front there. Not only where I want it to go, but where it wants to go. The more you tame it, the more formal it's going to look. The less you tame it, the more rhythm and movement and dynamic effect there's going to be. So I'll work from the front. So as these pieces come to here, they can be glued onto the metal frame, or you can once again use this loop method just to keep it consistent. Make yourself a little piece here and trap it in and leave that once again, because you might need a flower tube on that one. At this point it's your call how you're going to keep on adding and swirling it around, but remember we're wanting the eye to go in the middle here so it swirls around, or vice versa, goes up from here and round and round and round. So that's how you're going to finish off all these bits of cane. Now I've tucked them in a bit, I need another tie point here. Once again, just loop and tie them in. So it's now effectively tied at 5 points. And now you look for the cane bits that are not doing as they're told. So I've got some here at the back. Just cut off the ones that aren't adding to the rhythm. Just because they're there doesn't mean they have to stay there. So anything that you think doesn't add to your rhythm when you've got it going, and you've got it easy to transport, tied down in 5 places and ready to add the material and the floral tubes. When you're deciding on where you want the floral tubes, keep remembering where you want the person's eye to be. Do you want them to have it coming out of here and dripping down this way? If it's dripping down, it's going to stop the swirling rhythm. So I'm going to put the flower tubes here so that the vine will go up and around and swirl, and I'm going to leave the centre plain. That's an enclosed space and it's really, really powerful. The test tube I'm going to use is these lovely corrugated cardboard ones because they add some texture. Because I've got that tie point there, I'm going to put them at the back simply by tying them around that tie point there. Just the same way as I've tied everything else on, around the back. 1, 2, 3. Any vine will do. Gloriosa is another good one. This one is called flame vine, but really anything, ivy, anything that's going to creep, even the beautiful clematises will work with this. Now we'll pop some water into the tubes. To make it easier, just hang the vine up on there. So I'm going to tie it up the top there first from the construction. That also takes the weight off. And curl it around. Not only is this keeping the frame from being so dominant, but you've also got to make sure that it's not hiding all that lovely cane work. So I'm just attaching this last little piece to there. Now we can put it into flower tubes, tie them down even further a minute. At this point you have to take some of these leaves off. The leaves are completely dominating everything, and the leaves also don't last as long. So just anything there that's not serving a purpose, start to give it a prune. So just keep cutting so that all the interesting parts of the vine are left. For example, these beautiful tendrils that are coming down, these flowers that will continue to open, and I just cut one of the actual flowers off, and if I find more like that, it's just pop it in there so it's hiding those flower tubes a little bit more. Now on this vine you can see they're coming out this way, which is really, really good for depth, but I do want more of them going upwards. So I'm also going to tie these ones up rather than out, so we get more of the swish going there on that side. That is your basic structure, and if you wanted to leave it at that, you probably would need to paint your stand the same colour as the cane or the same colour as the green in the vine that you're going to use to integrate it. However, there is another way of integrating it, and it also adds more depth and more interest, and that is by putting something into the design that is the same colour as the stand, whatever you choose the colour to be. And I have got these beautiful dried hydrangeas, and they're a perfect match for the frame, as well as adding a little contrast in here. Because it's dark, it's a recessive colour. It is therefore, because it's almost a complementary colour of the orange, it is going to make the orange pop out, but don't expect this colour to pop out. Being recessive on the dark side of the colour wheel, it never will. But it is a wonderful way to integrate things. So if you have a look close in here, I have left a tag on here. These are dried, so I can simply pop that in there with using still what's there from the attaching the vine itself, and attach it to it and place it in there and cut it off. So I'm going to add these. I'm not going to dot them, just going to add some interest here and there in them, and so that we keep this eye movement going right the way round. And there it is, my vision. The beauty of using a metal frame such as this is it can be any size. It's very quick because you just need one bundle of cane for every screen. You can add dried plant material as well as fresh, and it's freestanding. So you could line these up as a are big room dividers which look really fabulous at a wedding where people can sit in individual bays. You can have them flat against the wall. You can have them so that they're exactly the same on the other side if they're going to be seen from both sides. And it is quick, and really that was just a piece of vine, but doesn't it look impressive? Contemporary, and using a frame that used to be used in such a different way last century. A circular frame is so versatile, and you can make your own or you can buy them. You can buy them from a craft shop. This one I'm in the process of making. It has been cut off a big reel of wire. It's quite thick. You can get it much thinner than this, but of course the thinner you have this stout wire from a hardware shop, the more it's going to bend. So it's quite thick, possibly 3 millimeters. Now a trick to bend it is, if you want it as a perfect circle, is find something that is of that circular shape, like a pipe, and wind it round that. Now I can't find anything like it here, so I've just used an old jelly mould really that I use for other things. It's one of my craft things, and use it just to bend it into that gentle curve, and it will curve it around and around to how you want it. You also will need a spike. Once again, if you want to know how to make these yourself, have a look at that DVD about making your own stands. And I want this to be in proportion to the spike. So I'm going to measure it out. I'm just pulling that circle out. This is approximately a metre, a yard of wire. So I want it about there. So when I get it to there, put these two pieces together. Now the best thing to put these two pieces together is to weld it. We don't all have a welder. So you can also use plumber's tape to hold it together, sellotape, grey parcel tape, anything like that. Just make sure you've bent it as much as you can, because there's quite a lot of tension in here. I've got ordinary sellotape from the office. I'm going to check again, that's how big I want it. It's a little bit bigger. And I'm going to sellotape it together. Now this sellotape is not just going to hold like that, but it's going to start me off. Now I can carry on bending it and turning it into that circle. If you see it wonky, just play with it. Now I can put a bit of sellotape on this end. And on this end. As I said, black plumber's tape is ideal for this. It's very, very strong, and you don't see the finished result. I'd like to show it, and there it is. It's out of kilter, so we just bend it till you've got a decent circle shape. It's got a wee bit of a flat bottom because of that join there, so I'm going to make sure that I put that at the bottom of the design. And just going to secure those together a little more, rolling it round. If you've got forest tape, it works really, really well, but because it's green or white or brown, you would have to go right the way around the whole ring, so you just didn't have this lump of green at the bottom, and that's why sellotape's good, because you'd end up not seeing it. And now I have my spike, I'm putting my flat spot to the bottom, and I want this to sit just above the ground. So more sellotape this time around this way and around here. Holding it there. You can use wire for this part. If you prefer, you can wire this on. That's also protecting that. And that is your basic frame construction for a screen or a frame that is a circle. For this next part, you'll need some yarn. I've used white fluffy yarn and a glue gun, and it's really, really quick. So start wherever. A spot of glue. Put the yarn on it. And go down to somewhere else. A spot of glue. And then up again. As random as you can. This isn't sort of like the macrame and things of the earlier years. A little spot of glue grabs it. Go around the corner. And then up again to somewhere else. And you just keep doing this until you've covered all of the spaces in this mesh of yarn. You can see how using white's going to make it look very, very different from if I use some colour or black or string or even a natural fibre like raffia. All makes it look quite different. The key is just a tiny spot of glue at the tops. This is the back I'm working on. I'm at the back, so that's why I keep on threading it through so it's at the front. And the spot of glue obviously goes just where the yarn is going to touch that frame. So it takes a couple of minutes, that's all. And because it's all glued, nothing's going to slip off. It's just so easy. Now I'm going to start threading things through that. All dried material for me in this case, but you could do it with fresh flowers as well, especially if you want it to just last a day, perhaps for a bridal table or something like that. I've got some silver Tington and I'm just threading it through. This is adding a little bit more texture and interest. And be completely random where you put these. You're not creating this time any sort of a pattern. You are just adding layers of colours and textures and interesting things. So I'm adding line material. Another lovely resource I've got these beautiful poppy seeds. They're in a paper bag because they are still full of seeds. And come spring, I will be sprinkling all the seeds that I've collected in the bottom of the bag all over my wildflower garden to create more poppies. There's nothing more beautiful than green poppy pods or these lovely brown ones. How do you dry them? They were put upside down in this paper bag and forgotten about for 2 months. And that's the result. What they're going to do in this screen is just add another texture and more lines. So once again, as randomly as possible, I'm threading them down through and into the piece. If they're not going to hold, a touch of glue will do it, but normally just the interlacing and the weaving will make it all work. So I'll just carry on another probably 10 of these. So there are the poppy seeds all in place, and you'll notice at the top here I have put one in the front of where I sellotaped the stand on, and also here at the bottom I have put one on. So you can use these to hide any bits of mechanics you don't want to see. I want to add another texture now, so I'm going to use these olives. These are dried, they've been possibly off the tree for 3 weeks, so that they will last in that green state for quite some time, and I can hot glue them on. If you hot glue onto this stem part here, they are not going to go all brown and awful. And once again, as random as you want to make them, and place them. It's easier to place that glue onto a stem of the poppy. It's going to glue better than if it was on the actual yarn. We're starting to fill it in. I keep adding these. So you can no longer see the sellotape. The yarn that you pick is receding into the background, so it didn't matter that it was that bold white. Using bold white on a screen makes people look at the whiteness. If you choose black, they look through the black. So this makes it far more private if you're using it to divide up a room. So that's the small version, but how can we give it some depth? By adding a second one that's bigger behind it. Ha-ha! So this one is made exactly the same way, so they become a pair, but what is incredibly versatile is that they can be arranged in front, beside, or along, and immediately you've got that depth. Lots of possibilities. So far, screens and frames that I have shown you have all been enormous. Great things for dividing up rooms or hiding things you don't want people to see. So we're going to completely change the scale this time and go small, because lids of cardboard boxes are beautiful little frames. They can be manipulated in all sorts of creative ways to create the most perfect little coffee table designs. Have play. I've got 2 that are the same size and this one that's smaller, and put them in a way that you think looks really, really cool. And just play around with what you've got. Try it with your shoebox lids. These came from a craft shop and I've already used the bottoms for other things. I've decided I like that composition. Several reasons. It's 3D. As I turn it round, you're going to see different parts. If you're sitting on one side of the room, you're only going to see this piece. This is another piece of a surprise. It will work very well also on a dinner table if they were long and thin. So now I'm happy with that composition. I'm going to make a vegetative design, which means as if you were looking at something in a little garden. No, we're not going to have little ornaments and mirror things for ponds. This is all just plant material. But preparing this first, floral foam, haven't seen that before in this video, and some cling film. You can also use supermarket plastic bags for this. And I want floral foam in this section, and also in the back. The quickest way to do it is to just take an impression. There it is. And that tells me what I want to cut out. I don't want it this depth, however. They can be much, much smaller than that. So I'll cut my foam. down through the middle. And now I can cut out that little piece. And that will fit into there perfectly. And now I'm going to do the same for this piece here. I don't want this down like that, so I'm going to put a little piece of floral foam as a little chalk there, so it's nice and level. All I need to do now is wet it, the floral foam, and put it into cling film, and we're ready to start. With your knife, just tuck the cling film in. It's there so that the cardboard doesn't get wet. If the cardboard gets wet, it's going to start dissolving, isn't it? So that's the point of the plastic bag or the cling wrap. Alright, now what have I found in the garden? So the plant material I've picked is small to go with the scale. Aralia seed pods, alyssum, lavender, geranium, leaves, the small ones, coprosma variegated, and foxtail fern. These are little cottage flowers. I have no idea what they're called. And the key is to place them in a dainty way as if they were growing. So I always start with the base things and then I start adding. That's why I brought in the foxtail fern. Popping it in the middle, not much of it. What I'm doing on this side, I'm also going to reproduce a little of it on that side. These are my tallest ones. Don't want them to look like trees, I just want them to add a background of some sort. So we're scattering them about. Everything is random, just like in nature. And there's your beginning. That's better, you can see it with the Lazy Susan going around. These lovely Aralia pods. Last forever, eventually go brown. And so these add a secondary amount of height. Things in nature do actually grow together because that's where the seeds fall, of course. Lower level. Some on the back. Already beautiful contrast. Cover up the edges with the Pelargonium, I guess it is. We just call it geranium. It is a very good way to hide the floral foam. The danger is that you place it just to hide the foam and suddenly you've got a very formal design. Right, and little bunches of this lovely variegated coprosma. Gives the colour, adds the contrast, lasts so long in arrangement. We could also use that for hiding some of that edge of that floral foam. You're not going to have this sort of plant material, obviously. When you go looking for it, you're looking for things that are in scale, that go together in your hand as far as colour is concerned. It looks really pretty in your hand before you've even placed them in the floral foam, and you're looking for contrast. And the more random you can force yourself to place them, the more vegetative, like nature, it's going to be. Very pretty, hiding it from one side to the other. The surprise is all the way around, so it's acting as a screen. So cool. Right, let's add some of the lavender. That one's flopping because it's just come out, it's new. These ones have very stiff stems, and it's because they've been out for a while and the flowers that were here have already finished. These are the new flowers here. So when you're picking, always go for these stiff stems if you want it to last. Oh, smells divine. Right, I'm going to go quite low with these ones because we've got plenty of high things there. And bunch them up. First dot of colour we've had. By going round and round and round like this, you don't end up making a pattern. I like vegetative designs, they're always so pretty. Starting to fill in the gaps, this is the alyssum. It's very, very fine stemmed. You might find you need to put 2 or 3 in together, and I'm also going to cut this one very low. Doing them in 2s and 3s gives them more presence. In other words, they seem to have a stronger, you seem to have a stronger sense of them being there. Deliberately putting them towards the front of the design. They're covering up the floral foam, but they are also so dainty that you'll see them easily at the front. So I'm going round and round and round until I've completely filled it all in. It'll take me another 10 minutes. With it all done, you can see the placements really are completely random, but because they looked so good in my hand, I knew wherever I placed anything it was going to be fine. Let's just take it off the Lazy Susan. Although this is a small design, upscale it for a hotel foyer. A grand entrance to a show. Think about it. They walk in, they see this. This is a screen, a big, big neutral coloured brown screen. As they walk around into the show, they're seeing more of it here. I'm talking about this screen being as tall as me. As they come out of the show, back through the entrance, they're seeing the back of it, and it's still a lovely design that keeps them going. So transform them to this into any size that's appropriate for your setting. It's a completely all-round design, yet that screen is stopping them seeing anything you don't want them to see until they come round into your hall, event or home. A brilliant 3D design with some hidden secrets.
There are events everywhere, every day and night. Events deserve fresh flower displays, but you don't know how? Make your own. For a fashion show, Indian celebration, college foyer, exhibition opening, business gathering, and when a VIP visits your community. Rent, view online or buy as a DVD. High impact, low budget arrangements, step by step for the ultimate DIY and flower arranger.